If ancient myths are like treasure chests full of hidden gems for our spiritual understanding, then these 4 myths contain some very unusual jewels indeed. What they're trying to tell us is not what we think, and when we realize that, everything changes. In this episode, we'll be looking at 4 stories from different cultures around the world that all share one thing in common, a deeper meaning which has been hidden for thousands of years. If you enjoy mythology, folklore, symbolism, spirituality, and philosophy, then stick around, because today, we'll be decoding some of the most secret messages in all of these ancient tales. Let's get into it. The Greek myth of Persephone. In the realm of ancient Greek mythology, there exists a tale that stands out as one of the most enigmatic and profound, the myth of Persephone and her journey into the underworld. The story begins with Persephone, the daughter of the great gods Zeus and Demeter, living a life of blissful ignorance in the meadows of Ina. She frolics through the valleys, gathering flowers and basking in the warmth of the sun. Her mother, Demeter, watches over her with a love that knows no bounds. But this idyllic existence is not meant to last. For Hades, the god of the underworld, has set his eyes on Persephone and desires her for his bride. One day, while she is gathering flowers, the earth splits open and Hades emerges, carrying her down into the underworld. Persephone's cries for help reach her mother, who in her infinite power searches the earth for her missing daughter. Upon finding out about the abduction, Demeter's heart breaks. In her grief, she punishes the earth, causing it to become barren and the crops to wither. As the people suffer, Persephone finds herself trapped in the underworld, forced to eat pomegranate seeds, which bind her to her new home. Realizing that his bride is unhappy, Hades offers her a deal. He allows her to return to the surface world if she has not eaten any of the food from the underworld. But alas, Persephone had unknowingly consumed some pomegranate seeds, and thus is bound to stay in the underworld with Hades for 1/3 of every year. This myth is much more than just a story of a girl taken against her will by a god. It speaks to the human experience in its rawest form. The journey of Persephone symbolizes the process of self-discovery and the challenges we face on the path to enlightenment. The underworld she travels to represents the depths of our own psyche, where we must confront our deepest fears and challenges to emerge transformed. The eating of the pomegranate seeds signifies the acceptance of suffering and death as inevitable parts of life, something we all must eventually come to terms with. This myth is a reminder that even in the darkest depths, there is always hope for transformation and rebirth. The Celtic myth of the children of Lear. Long ago in Ireland, there lived 4 beautiful fairy children, 2 boys and 2 girls, whose names were Brian, Ian, Fiachra and Ad. They were the children of the sea god Lear, who were blessed with the ability to transform into swans. However, their idyllic existence was shattered when their evil stepmother, the wife of their father, banished them from their home. Alone and afraid, the children fled to a nearby lake, where they spent their days swimming and sleeping in the reeds. But as time passed, they began to miss their old life and longed to return home. One day, they met an old man who took pity on them and offered to buy them new clothes so they could disguise themselves and sneak back into their father's castle. The plan worked, and the children were able to infiltrate the castle unnoticed. But their joy was short-lived as their stepmother soon discovered their true identities and imprisoned them in swan form within 4 separate trees. There they were forced to endure the changing seasons, watching as the other children grew up and eventually died without ever being freed. However, after 4 long years, a young prince came across the lake and heard the swans' sorrowful cries. He felt moved to help them and cut down the trees, releasing the children from their prison. Overjoyed to be free, the children thanked the prince for his kindness and asked for his help in returning home. But upon arriving at the castle, they realized that their father had also passed away. Now free to claim their birthright, the children became rulers of Ireland, bringing peace and prosperity to the land. This myth is more than just a fairy tale. It is a powerful allegory for the spiritual journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. The 4 children represent the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and their imprisonment symbolizes the limitations of the physical world. The old man who helps them represents a wise teacher or guide who aids the seeker on their spiritual path. The evil stepmother embodies the ego or lower self that seeks to hold us back from achieving our true potential. And the young prince symbolizes the hero or avatar that comes to rescue us from our own self-imposed prisons. Ultimately, This myth teaches us that true freedom can only be achieved when we break free from the limitations of the physical world and reconnect with our spiritual essence. The Babylonian myth of Etana. In the ancient Mesopotamian civilization, there existed a powerful queen named Etana, the childless wife of King Mes. Yearning for a son to carry on their bloodline, Etana embarks on a perilous journey to find a special plant called the cedar of Lebanon. Guided by a divine storm god, she faces many obstacles, including a terrifying dragon with 7 heads and 7 sets of wings. With the god's assistance, Etana slays the dragon and retrieves the plant, which she promptly consumes. Miraculously, she becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son. But soon after, the gods take the child away from her. Grief-stricken and determined to get her son back, Etana journeys to the underworld, but fails to bring him back. Instead, she is allowed to take a flower from the garden of the goddess Ishtar, and instructed to offer it to the sun god Shamash. Upon presenting the flower to Shamash, he reveals the truth about her son, telling her that he was taken by the gods because of the cedar of Lebanon plant she had consumed earlier. Only another plant called the flower of life could reverse this curse, and he tells her where to find it. Once again, Etana faces many challenges, including a giant bird and a horrifying demon with a lion's body and a human head. But with the help of the storm god, she prevails and obtains the flower of life. Returning to Shamash, he instructs her to wash the flower in her sacred waters and place it under her son's nose. Etana does as she is told, and her son is immediately cured. Reunited with her son, Etana learns a valuable lesson about fate and the power of the gods. This myth holds a deep spiritual meaning that resonates with many believers today. The cedar of Lebanon plant represents the material world and the desire for worldly things such as power and possessions. By consuming the plant, Etana is granted worldly success, but it comes at a cost. The gods represent higher powers or spiritual forces beyond our control, and her son, the object of her desire, is taken away, symbolizing how attachment to material things can lead to loss and suffering. Through her journey to the underworld and back, Etana confronts death and the possibility of an afterlife. Ultimately, the myth teaches us about the importance of accepting what we cannot control and finding peace in the midst of chaos. And finally, the Norse myth of Kvasir and the mead of poetry. In Norse mythology, Kvasir was a legendary poet and one of the 9 members of the Aesir, the chief group of gods in the Norse pantheon. He was known for his wisdom and skill in poetry, and his mead was said to have magical properties that inspired creativity and heightened poetic abilities. One day, Kvasir went to the dwarven city of Sportalfheim to get a new cauldron made for brewing his famous mead. While he was gone, 2 of his servants, the god Loki and the giant Gallat, decided to trick him. They invited several other gods and giants to a feast, and told them that Kvasir had made a new batch of mead that was stronger than any other mead. The giants agreed to help them steal the mead if they would split the treasure 3 ways. When Kvasir returned home and realized what had happened, he fled to the forest, pursued by Loki and Glua. To escape, he climbed a cliff and turned into an eagle, but Loki shapeshifted into a fly and followed him. Eventually, Kvasir flew to the land of the giants and hid in a cave. There, he met the giant King Gaia and tricked him into drinking the mead. As a result, the king became incredibly skilled at poetry and storytelling. However, Loki eventually found him and threatened him unless he gave back the mead. Kvasir refused, and so Loki killed him, chopped him up and threw his pieces into a nearby river. The river then flowed to the land of the giants, bringing with it Kvasir's magical abilities. Some say that the mead of poetry represents the inspiration and creativity that all poets and artists seek. Others believe it symbolizes the power of language and storytelling to shape our understanding of the world. Whatever its true nature may be, the theft and subsequent scattering of the mead had far-reaching consequences for Norse mythology, imbuing certain places and objects with magical powers. And that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of 4 ancient myths and their hidden meanings. Do you have a favorite myth or a different culture's myth that you think deserves more attention? Please let us know your thoughts below. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.